you had a great weekend in spite of the sports balls game, as Frosty would say. Get the microphone adjusted here. The Todd Tucker Show is on, and Mike Stoops fired as defensive coordinator at OU. About time. We'll talk about that coming up later on. Also, Libertarian Gubernatorial nominee Chris Powell is going to join me here in a second. And my phone's going off. It's like a train whistle.
Why is it a train?
Because you know I like trains.
That's such a bad ringtone.
It's a great ringtone.
It's awful.
It's a great ringtone. It reminds me of my childhood, except trains didn't have whistles back when I was born, contrary to your popular belief. You think I was born back when they did the steam locomotives, and that's not the case at all.
You were alive for the land run afterwards.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah. I was one of the Sooners. Why is part of my name cut off there, Frosty? Who's the cameraman? Let's fire that cameraman. All right, Brett Kavanaugh confirmed. Don't be me. Come on, where? Where are we going? Glad you're here. I predicted it would be like 51-49. It was 50-48. Heidi Heitkamp is saying it wasn't a real smart political move for her to vote against Justice Kavanaugh. I don't know if you saw the vote on Saturday, but I did. There were several protesters, of course, just like there were in the hearings, and they were just going bat crap crazy, disrupting. In fact, Vice President Pence had to ask for order in the chamber several times because these people don't appreciate or respect our system. Tell you what's going to happen. People like you and me who want to go and watch history in the making, we're going to eventually be shut out because of people like that. After the vote, Judge Kavanaugh was sent across the street to the Supreme Court building, where Anthony Kennedy, his former boss on the Supreme Court, former justice, swore him in. It was a ceremony that was private, but these libturds were clawing at the doors of the Supreme Court, clawing at the doors and squealing, screeching. I'm glad we've got sane women. They're called conservatives and called independents and called libertarians. Definitely no sense of any kind of trying to get along on the parts of liberals. But contrary to everything they threw at Brett Kavanaugh, he is now Justice Brett Kavanaugh. Tonight there will be a ceremonial swearing in at the White House in the East Room, where Kavanaugh was introduced for the first time as President Trump's nominee. As I said, it's ceremonial. Chief Justice John Roberts will administer that oath. The president will be there. Melania has been in Africa. She will not be attending the swearing in tonight. But it will be on TV and something you'll want to watch, and there won't be any protesters in the East Room. I can promise you that. That kind of stuff is not allowed inside the White House. But Justice Kavanaugh, tomorrow, he's got his first case that has to do with handguns. And his first order of business was the first ever all-woman law clerk team. He promised it. He talked about how he had employed women all of these years as law clerks. Judge Kavanaugh, now Justice Kavanaugh, has been on the D.C. circuit for the last several years, appointed by President Bush. And in fact, President Bush was contacting members of the Senate lobbying for Justice Kavanaugh. And we know the Bushes and the Trumps don't get along too well. But President Bush said that Justice Kavanaugh was a great pick by President Trump. And he was calling people like Susan Collins and Lisa Murkowski. There's no hope for her. Sarah Palin said, I can see 2022 from my house. Is Sarah going to run against her? Or is she going to get behind somebody who's going to run against her? I think Lisa Murkowski just committed political suicide. So we now have a Supreme Court justice with an all-female law clerk team. And tomorrow they'll hear their first case on the Supreme Court dealing with firearms. Now, although Justice Kavanaugh, like I said, was sworn in Saturday, there will be that ceremonial swearing in tonight. You'll want to watch it. It's something that is history. It's historic. It's a great example of how the left couldn't stop Judge Kavanaugh. If President Trump had been a politician, he would have probably abandoned Kavanaugh a long time ago. And if Kavanaugh had not been the guy with the perseverance that he is, he would have taken himself out of the process. But Brett Kavanaugh was not guilty of anything, and President Trump made a great pick. And now the liberals have thrown everything they've got out there. So when Ruth Buzzard Ginsburg finally kicks the bucket, what are they going to do with the next pick? Because I think it's pretty inevitable that President Trump will serve 2 terms. His poll ratings continue to go up. The Democrats have helped there. The GOP is more united than ever before. Thank you, Democrats, for that. The GOP can't bring themselves together, but the Democrats, the libturds, the far leftists in the party have been able to do something that they didn't intend to do, but they're just so stupid they don't know any better. They brought the GOP together. And with the midterms coming up, we're going to see some people go down. Donnelly, I'm not sure if Tester's up for re-election or not, but he'll go down. These are senators in states that went heavily for Trump in 2016. You've got Joe Manchin, who's not really a Democrat. I don't know why he affiliates himself with Democrats, but Joe Manchin is the lone Democrat to vote for Kavanaugh on Saturday. It was a beautiful day after the big circus, the clowns. And the clowns were there, and the clowns are on the Senate floor. And Schumer, I'd like to take those glasses on his nose, shove them up his ass, and break them. Things I can't say on the radio, but I can say here. Colbert writer, you know, Stephen Colbert, there's no wonder that late night TV is dying. People aren't watching it anymore. They're watching their DVRs, they're watching Netflix, they're watching Amazon Prime, they're watching Hulu like I am. Because late night TV isn't funny anymore. It's become nothing but an anti-Trump, anti-conservative hour of not funny stuff. A Colbert writer said, "I'm just glad we ruined his life," meaning Justice Kavanaugh. Well, you see, I don't know if you were paying attention, but he was confirmed to the Supreme Court. I don't think you ruined his life. President Trump met with Rod Rosenstein on Air Force One, and the president says he has no intentions of firing Rosenstein. Now, I don't know why. I don't know what's going on behind the scenes. I just know Donald Trump knows what he's doing. So what will happen with Rod Rosenstein? What is he doing? Is he giving up names? Is he cooperating? Probably so. Time will tell. And you want to talk about needing an FBI investigation. You've got this public school teacher in the Socialist Republic of Minnesota. She posted a solicitation for the murder of Brett Kavanaugh on Twitter. In an atmosphere of intent to just destroy our American foundations, Twitter users were quick to make screenshots of this particular tweet and other tweets by this woman. Oh, isn't that cute? She made some little yarn, whatever, butterfly, a little yarn butterfly. She wouldn't teach my child, not one more day, not ever. There is a phone number for the school district in which she teaches, and I'm sure the phones have been going nuts today to fire her. The FBI, I'm sure, has already visited this woman. If they haven't, they will. You can't go and threaten the life of a public servant, especially somebody like a president or a member of Congress or the Supreme Court. So here's what this woman did. Let's take a look at the tweets here, Frosty, and you can scroll some of the responses as well, because it's quite entertaining. So who's going to take one for the team and kill Kavanaugh is what she asked. This is Samantha Ness. And people have all kinds of, her Minnesota teaching license, 506745. And you can see these tweets in response. This is what the left is doing. The left is doing everything they can to threaten, to scare, to run off conservatives, and it's not going to work. I dare some libturd to come to me in a restaurant, tell me to leave. I dare some libturd to tell me that I can't be someplace that is a public place. I dare them. Dare them. Double dog dare them. And I know Frosty's a liberal, but I know Frosty doesn't even condone this type of behavior. It's just, this is where we're at in America. I don't like extremists on either side, because extremists on either side are dangerous to our democratic republic. And so it's very troubling, especially when you have a public school teacher who is out there publicly asking for the murder of a Supreme Court justice. What is her justification? Well, she's not too bright, which means she shouldn't be teaching children. If she's got murder in her mind, then there has to be an issue with her mind. Would you feel safe with your child being in her classroom? And then let's take a look at academia. Let's take a look at law schools in America. The top 40 law schools in America are all run by extreme leftists. Academia is run by leftists. Our children, we're paying good money for our kids to go to college and be indoctrinated or be harassed because they dare to be conservative. We had Lou Carshaw in here last week. We've had other young Republicans in, young conservatives. They too are threatened, harassed. But yet conservatives don't harass libturds at their booths. We don't disrupt. I don't remember any disruption when Breyer was nominated to the Supreme Court, or Ruth Bader Ginsburg, or Sotomayor, or Kagan. In fact, Republicans voted for them because that's who the president appointed, nominated, and barring any reason other than we just don't make things up about people to destroy them, to keep them off the court. That's not the way our system works. And this is going to backfire big time in the face of the libturds come November 6th. It's also going to backfire on them on November 3rd. The Democrats have no one to run, no one credible to run, no one in the middle except maybe Joe Manchin. They're trying to push Gavin Newsom now, who's a candidate for governor, former mayor of San Francisco. Gavin Newsom has Hollywood good looks. Well, you know, that and a cup of coffee will get you nothing. So, as we look forward to the 2020 election, it's going to be fun to watch. And all of these cockroaches are going to be up on a stage spewing their left-wing hatred and their left-wing propaganda and socialism and tell you everything that's wrong with America when so many things are now right with America, always have been. These people hate America. Do you not get that yet? They hate America. They hate what we stand for. They hate freedom. They hate fair elections. In fact, they hate them so much that they'll steal elections every chance they get. But you see, people on the right don't do that. We don't steal elections. We work to win them fair and square. Frosty, did we ever get the video of Hillary? Well, Hillary was having another coughing fit, and she... Water. She and Billy Bob Blowjob are out on a nationwide speaking tour. Another gift to the Republicans come the midterms. I already told you last week, Beto's going to lose to Ted Cruz in Texas, but Beto turned down the endorsement of Bathhouse Barry Soetoro Obama. The GOP is now more united than ever before. Thank you, Democrats. OU defensive coordinator Mike Stoops was fired over the weekend. Texas racked up more points than ever in the Red River rivalry. In my opinion, Mike Stoops should have been fired after the Georgia loss in the college playoff game. But the season's not over yet, and we may play Texas again in the Big 12 championship. You never know, and I think if we played them again, we'd beat them. Ruffin McNeil, who was once Lincoln Riley's boss, is now the defensive coordinator, at least for the rest of this season. Lincoln Riley brought Ruffin McNeil on staff last year. He's had an opportunity to see the team last season, watch the team in the offseason, and watch the team so far as we go halfway into the 2018-2019 college football season. And so I predict this week being a bye week that we're going to see a new defense when we come out against TCU, not this Saturday, but next Saturday, we go down to Fort Worth. Ruffin McNeil's a good guy, and You know, thanks to Mike Stoops for his service to the university. He was with Brent Venables. Brent Venables, excuse me, I was Brett Kavanaugh, Brent Venables. He and Brent put a great defense together to win against Florida State in 2000. But that was then, this is now. Mike Stoops can't carry it. Somebody else has got to. Bolton, one of the defensive players, at halftime threatened to walk out of the locker room and take some of the team with him. That's how bad they were embarrassed at halftime on Saturday. But they as a team have to step up as well. And that's all I'm going to say about sports balls today because it's Monday and Frosty doesn't like sports balls. But I know what you're waiting for, and that is our friend Chris Powell. He's a Libertarian, and he's the nominee for governor. He beat Joe Exotic.
My God.
Who's now in jail.
He's in jail.
So Chris Powell's up next. You can feel free to ask your questions. Get on board. The Todd Tucker Show Monday is on. We're back right after this.
Do you have problems with pain, anxiety, or sleeplessness? Come see us at Can Help Wellness, where we can help. Stop by any of our 4 wellness centers to find out how premium CBD products can help you find relief. From balms to tinctures to even products for your pets. Natural, safe, organic relief and lab tested with certifications. Reach out to one of our wellness consultants today at 405-455-3012 or online at cann-help.com.
Welcome back. Joining me is Chris Powell. Chris, good to see you again, man.
Nice to be with you.
Haven't seen you since we were on the radio. And Chris, you won your party's nomination for governor. Mm-hmm. You beat Joe Exotic, and I can't think of the other guy's name.
Rex Lawhorn.
Rex, that's right, Rex Lawhorn. How could I have forgotten that? But anyway, congratulations.
Thank you.
How's the campaign going so far?
Well, we're running around, going all over the place and trying to talk to as many people as we can. So I don't know if I'm coming or going half the time, but we're going to keep on doing that till November 6th.
I understand. So I got some questions for you. One is, there were some Republicans who put some challengers up against conservative Republicans who were against raising taxes. If you had been governor at the time, would you have vetoed that bill or would you have signed that bill to increase taxes?
The bill that got to Governor Fallon's desk is not the bill that we would have gotten to in the first place. There were all kinds of opportunities to come up with additional funding by cutting corporate welfare, special interest tax breaks, those kinds of things.
Right.
That we could have put some money out there for.
Governor at the time, would you have? Oh, sorry, I'm getting my volume down. I was trying to look for questions here. There we go.
If we had. If I had been governor, we would have found other ways to come up with money for a teacher pay raise and look at some of the other concerns that teachers had because it was about a lot more than a pay raise, and we would have had something completely different than what we got from 1010XX.
Yeah. So you would have vetoed the bill that Governor Fallon signed, in other words.
Well, here's the problem is that by the time they got there to that point, I think most of the state was just happy they did something. It wasn't a good bill. It wasn't a good solution, but and it was because of the poor leadership from the governor's office that.
So you would have signed it.
I don't know. It's hard to go back to that point.
Well, that's a question that Stitt and Edmondson are having to answer, and Edmondson is going after Stitt because he says he would have vetoed it. Would you have signed it or would you have vetoed it?
I'm really on the fence because it was a bad bill, but by the time the governor and the leadership in the legislature let it get to that point, it's hard to say that there comes a point when you just have to throw up your hands and be done with something. I would have probably had a couple of sleepless nights trying to figure out what would be best to do. But I don't like the tax increases at all, and we certainly had money in state government that we could have redirected to do what we needed to do.
So why not veto it?
Because you weren't getting the results that you could have gotten back in the special sessions, the results that you could have gotten earlier in the legislative session. Governor Fallon squandered that. She squandered, and frankly, the Platform Caucus squandered some of those opportunities by not taking some of those incentives, the $450 million in incentives before the Incentive Evaluation Commission, and saying, let's get rid of some of this to fund a teacher pay raise. They didn't do that. Nobody else suggested it either. I was talking about it, but I wasn't there in the legislature. I wasn't sitting in the governor's chair.
But I'll ask you one more time. You're governor right now. Here's the bill. It's on your desk. You see it. Would you sign it or would you veto it?
We won't let you get away from that, I guess. He's pounding you.
Well, we'll see if he does it again, because we wouldn't have got to that point if I'd been in the governor's
I get it,
chair.
but we did get to that point. So what would you have done?
Well, as I told Justin Wingirter and it was Ben Felder at the Oklahoman when he posed the same question, I can't say for sure because both sides of it are bad. The side of, they finally passed something to resolve it, bad as it is. They finally passed something, and then you're going to veto it and go right back into the same situation you were in. Sometimes even a bad solution is better than letting the sore continue to fester.
Well, I can tell you.
But that's not to say that I would have signed it either, because I really can't tell you without being in that situation.
Have they invited you to a forum or a debate between now and November 6th with the Republican and the Democrat, with Stitt and with Edmondson?
Yes.
So you're going to be in a debate with them. So how are you going to answer that question? It's going to be asked. They're going to answer it. Stedmanson's going to say you would have signed it. Stitt's going to say you would have vetoed it. I mean, we're just trying to get you ready here.
I understand.
I understand, but I really, both sides of it are bad. It's just like trying to pick between voting for a Democrat or a Republican.
I think raising taxes when you don't need to is worse. But that's the conservative in me. I think we're taxed enough already. So I'm not happy with the passage of the tax increases, and I'm not anti-education, nor is Kevin Stitt, nor are you.
Yeah.
But it was used as a football, so to speak, a tool to defeat people that really had great intentions, who tried to get things done, but because of the lobbyists and all of the crap that goes on at the state capitol, instead of being praised for being steadfast, they were primary challenged, and about six of the best, were defeated. And so now we're going to be stuck with people that are going to just do whatever. In fact, they can't answer a question. They don't know. And that's very concerning to me, because we're going from having some staunch conservative leadership that has been defeated because they had the guts to stand up and say, no new taxes, we've got the money, it can be solved. But it wasn't solved. You're right, Governor Fallon did screw that up, but I'm pretending that Governor Powell's in there.
Well, I'll tell you a couple of things about 1010 that are positive. The fuel tax. The fuel tax is now equal between gasoline and diesel, which it should be equal. I don't like it being higher, but it should be equal. GPT, I've said from day one that the gross production tax should be the same rate from day one forward for everything. I'd like it to be a low rate. There's a lot of people who would like it to be a higher rate, but I want it to be the same rate. And I think that should apply to energy across the board. Nobody should be drilling a well or erecting a turbine or putting up a solar farm or digging a coal mine because they're getting a tax break. They should do it because it makes economic sense. We need energy tax equality all the way across the board. We got a little bit closer to that. It came with a tax increase. I don't like that it's not completely equal, and I'd like that rate to be lower overall. But equality before the law is very important to me. It should be the same for everybody.
We're speaking with Lieutenant, or I keep wanting to say Lieutenant, your Libertarian Gubernatorial nominee, Chris Powell. And I'm looking forward to the debate between you and Democrat Edmondson and Republican Stitt. But, and I'm glad you're in today. And I don't mean to keep hounding you, but that is an important issue. And a lot of people were defeated because they stood up to taxes and were accused of being anti-education. And so you're going to be standing on a stage with two people that one would have signed it, one would have vetoed it. Mm-hmm. And what I'm getting on Facebook Live right now are people saying no new taxes, no new taxes, no new taxes.
Well, I agree with that.
Okay, so that means you would have vetoed it.
Stop, Todd.
I'm telling you right now that I can't say for sure what I would have done at that time in that place if I was sitting in the chair. But I will tell you that anybody can say right now that they would have vetoed it then when they're running for office now. And I think you've got a guy who didn't even bother to vote in a gubernatorial primary till his name was on the ballot, and you don't know what he's going to do. He's an unknown quantity.
Well, so was Donald Trump, and we had a businessman that came in and cleaned things up. So, we've got you, we've got a career. The only career politician that's running in the race is Drew Edmondson.
Yes.
All right. So I think we all agree that we don't want a career politician. So the choice is down to you and Kevin Stitt, because Drew Edmondson is not an option. He's already indicated he'd raise taxes further. He's not in step with Oklahomans, and so that would be a bad thing. He's for more government. He would be a disaster. He's been around forever and ever and ever. I mean, you want to talk about somebody that was here for the land run? Drew Edmondson was here for the signing of the Declaration of Independence.
Did you see the press conference with him and Boren? Nothing says change like an 81-year-old guy endorsing a 71-year-old guy.
Well, and Boren, being a guy that ran up so much debt at the University of Oklahoma, is taking a businessman to clean that up. I'm not sure that David Boren would be someone I would want to align myself with if I were running for governor today, especially in light of everything that's coming out about the University of Oklahoma and Boren's excessive spending. So let's move on to your stance on: are you pro-life or pro-choice?
The most important thing to me on the abortion issue is the 10th Amendment. The 10th Amendment says that anything not specifically delegated to the federal government is reserved to the states or the people themselves.
I agree.
And I don't see anything in the Constitution that authorizes the federal government to decide for the entire country on the issue of abortion.
But what are you? Are you pro-life or pro-choice? You would be running for governor of the state of Oklahoma. And so if it's a states' rights issue, it lands on you.
If the legislature were to pass a bill to restrict abortion more than it is now, I would sign it.
Okay. So you still haven't answered my question. Are you pro-life or pro-choice?
Well, personally, if I were in the position of making the decision for somebody said, you decide for me, I could not make the decision to go ahead with it.
Okay, I got you. I understand. So you're pro-life there. Second Amendment, where do you stand on that? Are you for open carry?
Yes, I would have certainly signed constitutional carry. To me, the Second Amendment is a legal codification of the basic human right to self-defense.
Do you think that we should have to be licensed to carry in our state?
A license turns a right into a privilege, in my view.
Okay, yeah, I can't disagree with that.
It's a right.
The only thing that the license does is it puts law enforcement officers at ease when I come in contact with them, because they automatically know I've passed a background check, that I'm good, and that they don't have to be nervous. They ask me where my weapon is, I tell them, and I haven't gotten a ticket yet. And I've deserved a ticket 3 times, and I haven't gotten a ticket any of the 3 times. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that they see my license and they're like, okay, this guy is a law-abiding citizen. He has passed the background check. So I'm not a big fan of having to have a permit for something that's my constitutional right. At the same time, I don't know that requiring classes to teach people how to shoot, make sure there's proficiency. I mean, there are also safety issues. But then, we have Benjamin Franklin who says when we give up our liberties for safety, we deserve neither. Mm-hmm. So I would have to say that that the government, state and federal, needs to stay out of our business with handguns. In fact, handgun crimes are committed in places where there are more restrictions than places where there are. And let's take a look. I was in D.C. when the Louis on the Lake shooting occurred this past May, but if it hadn't been for two law-abiding, licensed carrying, guys that were carrying, this shooter could have killed people, and he didn't because he was stopped. He was shot dead by people that were there before the police could possibly get there. I've had officers tell me plenty of times, Chris, that they're 8 minutes away. Okay?
Yes.
Well, 8 minutes, I don't have it. If somebody breaks down my front door or comes up to me and tries to hold me at gunpoint, I don't have 8 minutes to wait for the police.
Sure. I spent 6 years as a 911 dispatcher, and I understand completely that when seconds count, the police are minutes away.
So in a light moment, do you watch the show 911?
No.
Oh, it's a great show. It's probably unrealistic, but it's a great show.
Do you watch TV shows about radio hosts?
I used to watch WKRP a lot. In fact, hi, Merrill, my dear. One of my old radio friends is logged on from Atlanta, Georgia. So, no, if there was a show about a radio, I mean, yeah, we had Frasier.
Okay. Would you watch a show about a radio host doing his show the whole time?
Probably.
He'd be into it.
Yeah, probably.
Would you watch that, Frosty?
No, I'm not. I don't have a show named after me either, though. So there's a bit of a difference.
Frosty's busy watching me on YouTube.
That's it.
All the time. In fact, it's pretty cool because Frosty can just search in Todd Tucker, and there I am.
Yeah, one of the great things about being a 911 dispatcher is that when I left at the end of my shift and closed that door, it all stayed there. I didn't take any of it with me.
I can't imagine that would be a very high pressure, very intense job.
At times, yeah.
Unbelievable. Chris, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be back in 60 seconds. Chris Powell, Libertarian, nominee for governor. The Todd Tucker Show Monday is on. We're back in a flash. Don't go away.
Do you have problems with pain, anxiety, or sleeplessness? Come see us at Can Help Wellness, where we can help. Stop by any of our 4 wellness centers to find out how premium CBD products can help you find relief. From balms to tinctures to even products for your pets. Natural, safe, organic relief and lab tested with certifications. Reach out to one of our wellness consultants today at 405-455-3012 or online at cann-help.com.
Back with Libertarian nominee for Governor Chris Powell. Chris, I know I've been hard on you, but you've got a debate coming up, and so we're just kind of doing a little prep work here. What are your thoughts on the legislature? Obviously, if you were to become governor, you would not be working with a Libertarian legislature. You'd be working most likely with Republicans, possibly Democrats, definitely both, but it's going to take a lot for Democrats to get a majority because the Republicans have such a majority. So how do you work with, would you say it would be easier to work with Democrats or Republicans based on your belief system?
It just depends on the issue. I've always been a guy who could work with people regardless of where they are, whether they're even outside of the 2 establishment parties. Constitution Party folks, Green Party folks. I'm somebody who can get along with people and wants to sit down and work things out. I think it will be a tremendous advantage for me because I'm not automatically the enemy like somebody from the opposite party, whichever one it is, would be between those 2 establishment parties. I'm not the Democrats to the Republicans or the Republicans to the Democrats. So I think that gives me an opportunity to work with both sides and perhaps even pit those 2 sides against each other when necessary to increase liberty for the people of Oklahoma.
You're the friendly neighborhood libertarian.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, but you'd have to make some tough decisions. And it seems to me, from what I've studied, libertarians align their belief system comes more in line with conservatism than it does with liberalism.
I don't know that that's so. We certainly have a contingent within the Oklahoma Libertarian Party that is routinely called leftist. And I don't know that I entirely agree with that, but there are certainly some people who think so. One of the things that my friend Tom Laurent always told me is that if you get two libertarians in a room talking about an issue, you're going to get at least three opinions. So I'm not trying to say we're certainly for limited government. We're certainly for protecting individual rights. But sometimes those individual rights that we want to protect rub conservatives the wrong way. And we're just trying to reduce political control of people's lives.
I'm looking for a candidate that's going to eliminate the state income tax because I think it's a hindrance. I have no problem with an additional sales tax. I know that Texas and Florida, they have higher property taxes. I get it. They get their money one way or the other. But there's something to be said about taking all of your paycheck home. I've been for eliminating the federal income tax or simplifying it, going to a postcard or just a simple tax form. I'm even a strong proponent for a national sales tax where everybody pays their fair share. So if you come across illegally, you still, if you buy goods and services, you're paying the same tax that every other American are. And it also helps to eliminate class warfare. So, where do you stand on that? Would you be in favor if given the opportunity to eliminate the state income tax, or do you think it's a good thing?
I certainly don't think it's a good thing. I agree with Ron Paul that we ought to just repeal the year 1913. That would probably be a good idea. But, at least for right now, we have so much problems with our state budget and the way that we're spending our money. We've got to fix that first.
And whose fault is that? It's not we, the taxpayer.
It's the Republicans and Democrats in the legislature.
Right, mainly the Democrats, but yes, and the rhinos. True Republicans who are conservatives are not for raising taxes or for being restrictive. We're for less government also. Being a conservative, I'm for less government. I don't want the government in my business. At the same time, I'm not responsible for their spending, but I am responsible for doing something about making sure that people that are not elected to Congress or the Senate that are for higher taxes. So, we the people have a responsibility at the ballot box. That's what we can do about it.
Sure.
But to me, I believe income tax is restrictive. I understand there's a necessity for the government to take in money because it has to function. It's we have to have a functioning government, but I noticed that President Trump has eliminated 16,000 federal jobs so far, which I think is a step in the right direction because we're taking a government that was bloated. And I had an issue with President Bush when he created the Department of Homeland Security. That's another big bureaucracy that could have been handled by the FBI, the Secret Service. The Secret Service, I think, was much more efficient when it was under the Treasury Department. And the Department of Education on a federal level is a total waste.
The Department of Homeland Security, not only is it a big bloated bureaucracy, but their whole job is to invade your privacy. So, it's not just it's not a benign bureaucracy. It's actively restricting our rights.
How do we keep ourselves safe from terrorism in the 21st century, though, without some sort of checks and balances on people?
So do you want a Department of Homeland Security or not?
No, I just said I think it's a bloated, but I think the FBI has been fine up until the last few years. And I think the Secret Service under the Department of Treasury, the Secret Service was created for counterfeit money to begin with, and then moved into protecting the president and other officials. But so no, I didn't think that creating another bureaucracy was the right way to go. But I also think that we've got to know who's here and what their intentions are. And I don't agree that illegal people have the same rights as American citizens. I think they should be looked at. Where do you stand on immigration?
I would like us to have, of course, this is federal, and at the state level, a state that's not a border state, we don't have a whole lot.
Well, but we border a border state. They come up here. I-40 and I-35 are, that crossroads there is pretty. There's a lot of trafficking, and there have been a lot of deaths, illegals in vans that have crashed on Oklahoma highways.
But I have always advocated a controlled border, which is going to mean not trying to stop everybody that's coming across. People who are coming here for peaceful purposes, if they...
How do you know?
Well, if they'll come through the door, we can at least take a look at them, right?
But we've got to have somebody checking it.
Yes.
So would you say that would be an FBI?
Well, we have immigration.
Right. Well, of course, yeah.
But, you know, back to your point about Homeland Security, I was kind of poking at you a little bit, but the idea that we did need to take some additional steps, but we could have done that with the agencies that we had, that seems like that's a reasonable solution. Mm-hmm. And I think we're absolutely on the same page that creating an additional bureaucracy was not the way to go.
Right. And I'm actually happy that 16,000 federal jobs have been cut, because that means that the government is being cut, which means more people to go into core services and back into the pockets of the American people. Mm-hmm. And, you know, the more money we have, the more money we're going to spend, and the more money it's proven that lower taxes stimulate the economy. It's happened every single time. It's happening right now. And I think the same thing would happen in our state. If we were to eliminate such a tax burden that we have, this state has a huge tax burden. We are taxed to death in this state. And so I believe that we would see more people bringing jobs here. We've got to do something about our education system as well. Mm-hmm. Our education system is broken. A lot of it has to do with the federal overreach in our education system, but also every state in the union. I hear that Oklahoma is, we've got the least amount of teachers in America, and that's not true. Every state in the union has a shortage of teachers. So what would you do, Governor Powell, if you're the governor, what would you do to improve education? It's not just about teacher pay raises.
Exactly.
What about 4-day schools? What do you think about that?
I want local districts to have as much authority as possible, because when you put all your eggs in the 23rd Lincoln basket, you get top-down solutions that are not solutions. We need to empower parents and teachers in this system.
Parents first.
Yes, that's what I said. Parents and teachers in this system, so that they can make the decisions for the education of their children. The people over there at the Capitol, they don't know your child. They don't have any idea what your child needs. And a kid at Capitol Hill has different needs and is in a different position than a kid in Guyman or Sayre. Somebody at Booker T doesn't have the same needs as somebody at Big Cabin. We're dealing with all of these students that we have. Each one of them is an individual in their own place, with their own needs and their own skills and abilities. If we don't tailor our educational instruction to each individual student, we're going to continue to get the kind of results
Why
we've been
do we
getting.
need so many school districts? We've got over 500 school districts in a county that's 77 counties. So why not consolidate? Okay? Why not consolidate school districts like they do in Georgia, for example, by county? I know there are some areas of rural Oklahoma, western Oklahoma, where that's not possible, not feasible. But areas like the Oklahoma City Metro, Tulsa Metro, which goes down into Norman, Noble, Purcell, Slaughterville, there are areas, non-rural areas of Oklahoma, in which school districts could be consolidated. These superintendents are making exorbitant salaries while teachers are starving, and a lot of that has to do with the fact we have too many administrators, too many school districts. That means we've got all these athletic directors, we've got all these superintendents, we've got all of these people that are serving, when in fact we could consolidate. Where do you stand on consolidating school districts?
Well, I think there's certainly probably some efficiencies that can be gained by consolidation in some areas. I don't want to force school districts to do anything they don't want to do. We can certainly look at consolidating.
So we just let school districts do what they want?
Let me get to my point. We can certainly look at consolidating some administrative functions. But if you want to look at the school district that has the lowest percentage of its budget going to the classroom, it's Oklahoma City Public Schools. And Tulsa Public Schools is not far behind. Everybody in those two areas who can move outside of that school district's limits does so because they don't want to be in that district. So I don't want to be the guy that says you have to be consolidated with the worst performing districts in the state. I'm not interested in doing that. I'm interested in taking that district, which has a organizational chart like a Fortune 500 company. It's so big. and has all of these different constituencies that they're trying to serve. The kids on the northeast side, the kids at Capitol Hill, the kids at John Marshall. These are all different communities, and they have different needs, and the teachers in the school districts have different needs. They shouldn't be together. That should actually be broken up.
Finally, criminal justice reform.
Mm-hmm.
We have the highest per capita incarceration in the world, men and women. When Louisiana presented criminal justice reform, passed it, we became #1 in men. We were already #1 in women. Now we are #1. Oklahoma, #1 with 4 million population in the world per capita. What would you do to reform criminal justice? Are you for criminal justice reform? And if so, what would you do? And if not, why?
Well, we need to make State Question 780 as far as the drug possession misdemeanor. We need to make that retroactive. We need to address mandatory minimums. When that was first passed back in the late 90s, it applied to what they called the 7 deadly sins. Now it applies to like 36 different crimes. We need to address that. And we need to properly fund things like drug courts and diversion programs and things like that. When we put people into the prison system, we're putting them into the higher education system of the criminal world. They come out, and they're going to come out. They come out with their lives ruined, and they are more dangerous to us. We make ourselves less safe.
We put people in that weren't a danger,
right?
But they've learned to be dangerous because of their needing to survive while in a community of dangerous people. 85% crimes, to me, we need to shrink the number of 85% crimes.
Absolutely.
And we need to stop incarcerating people we're angry with and start incarcerating people that we're scared of.
We need to deal with the ridiculous amount of fees that we've piled on because what we wind up is we pile these debt on these people.
And put them in the welfare system.
Yeah, and well, not just that, but then when they can't pay it, we wind up locking them up in a debtor prison.
Touché.
And I will point out that one of my opponents spent 16 years as the Attorney General presiding over the creation.
Go ahead and name his name. We know who he is.
Yeah, that's Mr. Edmondson. He sat by while all of this was happening, encouraged some of it, and if there's any one person who is more responsible than anybody else for our mass incarceration crisis, it's Drew Edmondson.
Where are you on the death penalty?
I do not have a philosophical objection to the death penalty. I want to make sure that we can implement it in a way that is going to withstand scrutiny from the courts. And I'll put it this way. I'm not afraid to pardon somebody. I'm not afraid to grant a reprieve, but I'm not afraid to sign the warrant either.
I guess my question is, they say that we had a botched execution by lethal injection. The end result was death. I don't see how that could be botched. It would have been botched if he had lived. He died. His victim, the victim of that crime in particular, suffered something that he never suffered while dying. And so I don't think people are really all that concerned with how an offender dies. We're more concerned about their victim and how they died. And we've got somebody on death row right now that's been granted a stay because of this ridiculous challenge on the combination of drugs. The firing squad is legal in the state of Oklahoma, and one bullet doesn't cost a whole lot of money. And so we could resume executions right now if we wanted to. Not only that, but this guy that's sitting on death row that's been granted a stay for right now, he raped a 2-year-old, buried her alive. Now, am I more concerned about how he dies, or am I going to be more concerned about how the 2-year-old died and how it affected her family? What about you?
I want a process that is not going to be held up to the rest of the nation in a way that is going to make us look bad. I think that's accomplishable, and that is what I am going to ensure happens. I understand the desire for retribution, but nothing we can do is going to bring that child back. But what we can do is make sure that we get a process that works and doesn't and can't be used by people who are against the death penalty entirely to chip away at our ability to carry out that state function as we see fit.
I guess it's a good thing that I'm not running for governor, because I don't care whether they suffer or not. I'm concerned about their victim, and I'm definitely, you know, you and I all agree to disagree on school districts. I think that if we were to allow school districts to just run amok without any kind of oversight, they would run amok, because we do have some corruption in local school districts. And so, you know, we'll agree to disagree there. But, you know, I think it's going to be an interesting race, and you survived a great primary. I know it was tough to beat Joe Exotic. That guy, when we were in break, actually, Chris and I were going over the number of last names that Joe Exotic has had over the years.
You know, Joe, you know, he got less than 20% in our primary. Yeah.
That's scary that he would even get that close to 20%. Well, that had to have been protest.
Well, you know, I think a significant portion, perhaps over half of those votes, were people who, for whatever reason, liked him and were personal followers of him, who changed their registration in order to vote for it. So, you know, it's not like it was 20% of the Libertarians that we started with. It's a much smaller percentage of that. But I also think that, you know, he just didn't run a very good campaign. You know, I went out and did a lot of work, and I knocked a lot of doors. Rex went all over the state to different places, and I think that showed in the results. You know, the people who went out and did the work, you know, they advanced to the runoff. So I think that says something there. And also, you know, again, I think a lot of those people were personal followers of Joe, and I wonder how they feel about that now.
What's the date of the big debate?
October 23rd, we're going to be in Tulsa for a debate hosted by the Oklahoma Academy and the League of Women Voters, and that's really the big one right there.
We'll have to be watching it, definitely. Chris, I wish you the best of luck. I'm glad you came in. Thanks for answering tough questions. You did it like you know, you did it, and you kept your cool, and I appreciate that.
Way to go, Chris! High five!
Yeah,
there you go.
Thank you, Chris. Chris Powell. Don't forget to watch the big debate as Chris takes on the career politician Drew Edmondson, Democrat,
and the multimillionaire CEO.
He got you there. Let it go.
I wish I were a multimillionaire CEO. Oh, you were talking about, okay, I got you. Anyway, Chris, thanks for being on. Frosty, let's take a quick break. We'll come with a close. The Todd Tucker Show Monday continues right after this.
Do you have problems with pain, anxiety, or sleeplessness? Come see us at Can Help Wellness, where we can help. Stop by any of our 4 wellness centers to find out how premium CBD products can help you find relief. From balms to tinctures to even products for your pets. Natural, safe, organic relief and lab tested with certifications. Reach out to one of our wellness consultants today at 405-455-3012 or online at cann-help.com.
President Trump held a rally in Topeka, Kansas, home of the Westboro Baptist Nuts. Not a Baptist church, by the way. They just call themselves that. And the president had a great line, and I thought I would share this video with you, so Frosty pulled it up for me. Props to Frost. Let's roll the video. President Trump, Saturday night after the Kavanaugh confirmation.
If you allow the wrong people to get into office, things could change. They could change, and they could change fast. And we're not going to let that happen. We can't let that happen. It can go very quickly. It can change very fast. We can't let that happen. You don't hand matches to an arsonist, and you don't give power to an angry left-wing mob, and that's what they've become. The Democrats have become too extreme and too dangerous to govern. Republicans believe in the rule of law, not the rule of the mob. We're doing a hell of a job of doing it. We're draining the swamp, and we want to defeat the Democrats conclusively.
Very good. President Trump Saturday in Topeka, Kansas, as he's on the campaign trail. The countdown to the 2018 midterms is on. And don't forget the gubernatorial debate coming up, I think he said October 28th, with all three, the Republican, Democrat, and Libertarian. So that will be something that you must watch, especially if you're undecided. Appreciate you being with us today. Tomorrow, it's going to be another big day. I can promise you, and we'll update you on what's going on, not only nationwide, but right here at home. The Todd Tucker Show Monday. God bless you. God bless America. God bless Oklahoma. Remember, the heart of the wise inclines to the right, the heart of the fool to the left. Ecclesiastes 10:2. We'll see you tomorrow.